A reading from the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. Objectification is a notion central to feminist theory. It can be roughly defined as the seeing and or treating a person, usually a woman, as an object. In this entry, the focus is primarily on sexual objectification occurring in the sexual realm. Martha Nussbaum has identified 7 features that are involved in the area of treating a person as an object. Instrumentality, the treatment of a person as a tool for the objectifier's purposes. Denial of autonomy, the treatment of a person as lacking in autonomy and self-determination. Inertness, the treatment of a person as lacking in agency and perhaps also in activity. Fungibility, the treatment of a person as interchangeable with other objects. Violability, the treatment of a person as lacking in boundary integrity. Ownership, the treatment of a person as something that is owned by another and can be bought or sold. Denial of subjectivity, the treatment of a person as something whose feelings and experiences, if any, need not be taken into account. Ray Langton has added 3 more features to Nussbaum's list. Reduction to body, the treatment of a person as identified with their body or body parts. Reduction to appearance, the treatment of a person primarily in terms of how they look or how they appear to the senses. Silencing, the treatment of a person as if they are silent, lacking the capacity to speak. It has been pointed out by some feminist thinkers that women in our society are more identified and associated with their bodies than are men, and, to a greater extent than men, they are valued for how they look. In order to gain social acceptability, women are under constant pressure to correct their bodies and appearance more generally, and make them conform to the ideals of feminine appearance of their time, so-called norms of feminine appearance, the standards of appearance that women feel they should be living up to. Some feminists have argued that, in being preoccupied with their looks, women treat themselves as things to be decorated and gazed upon. Barkey believes that women in patriarchal societies also undergo a kind of fragmentation by being too closely identified with their body. Their entire being is identified with the body, a thing which has been regarded as less inherently human than the mind or personality. All the focus is placed on a woman's body in a way that her mind or personality are not adequately acknowledged. A woman's person, then, is fragmented. Barkey believes that through this fragmentation, a woman is objectified, because her body is separated from her person and is thought as representing the woman. The adolescent girl becomes an object and sees herself as an object. She discovers this new aspect of her being with surprise. It seems to her that she has been doubled. Instead of coinciding exactly with herself, she now begins to exist outside. However, this stranger who inhabits women's consciousness, Barkey writes, is hardly a stranger. It is, rather, the woman's own self. Barkey talks about the disciplinary practices that produce a feminine body and are the practices through which women learn to see themselves as objects. First of all, according to her, there are those practices that aim to produce a body of a certain size and shape. Women must conform to the body ideal of their time, i.e. a slim body with large breasts, which, Barkey holds, requires women to subject their bodies to the tyranny of slenderness, put themselves through constant dieting and exercise. According to Barkey, the second category of these disciplinary practices that produce a more feminine body are those that aim to control the body's gestures, postures, and movements. Women, she holds, are more restricted than men in the way they move and the way they try to take up very little space, as opposed to men who tend to expand the space available. Women's movements are also restrained by their uncomfortable clothes and shoes. The final category of the disciplinary practices, Barkey holds, are those that are directed toward the display of a woman's body as an ornamented surface. Women must take care of their skin and make it soft, smooth, hairless, and wrinkle-free. They must apply makeup to disguise their skin's imperfections. Our culture demands the infantilization of women's bodies and faces. The sexualization of girls and the infantilization of adult women are 2 sides of the same coin. They both tell us that we should find youth, inexperience, and naivete sexy in women, but not in men. This reinforces a power and status difference between men and women, where vulnerability, weakness, and dependency on their opposites are gendered traits, desirable in one sex but not the other. Childlike features, Gould argues, inspire a need to nurture. When we see a living creature with babyish features, he writes, we feel an automatic surge of a disarming tenderness. Alison Guy observes that we see a similar trend in recent toy makeovers: larger eyes, bigger heads, fatter, stumpier limbs, but we see this primarily in toys aimed at infants and girls, not boys. Guy interprets this trend as the result of a cultural imperative for women to embody both the cute and the sexual. So women don cute clothes with colorful patterns associated with children, and wear flippy skirts and baby doll t-shirts. They wear eyeliner to give the illusion of the large eyes of childhood, foundation to hide the marks of an aging face, and pink on their cheeks to mimic the blush of youth. They are taught these imperatives from an early age. What does it mean that feminine beauty is conflated with youthfulness, but masculine beauty is not? That we want women to be both cute and sexual? It means that we feel comfortable with women who seem helpless and require taking care of. Perhaps we even encourage or demand those traits from women. Perhaps these childlike characteristics are most comforting in women who are, in fact, the least needy. I submit that we are more accepting of powerful women when they perform girlish beauty. When they don't, they are often perceived as threatening or unlikable. So yes, the sexualization of girls is interesting, but it's not just about sexualizing kids early. It's about infantilizing adult women too, as a way to remind women of their prescribed social position relative to men. According to Barkey, whatever else she may become, she is, importantly, a body designed to please or excite. Iris Marion Young adds that women's preoccupation with their appearance suppresses the body potential of women. Developing a sense of our bodies as beautiful objects to be gazed at and decorated requires suppressing a sense of our bodies as strong, active subjects. Haslinger have explored the idea that objectification is often hidden and masked as objectivity. A plausible strategy for discovering a thing's nature is to look for observed regularities. This is because natures are responsible for the regular behavior of things under normal circumstances. For example, I observed that my ferns die if deprived of water. The above procedure, however, can be problematic. This becomes obvious when moving to the social world. For example, aiming to discover women's nature by following the above procedure in patriarchal societies like ours, according to McKinnon, is highly problematic. McKinnon believes that it is an observed regularity in our society that women are submissive and object-like, and men are women's objectifiers. This means that one might be led to the belief that women are by their nature submissive and object-like. It should be noted here that McKinnon, also Haslinger, and Blankton, following her, use men and women to refer to gender categories, which are socially, not biologically defined. One is a woman or a man by virtue of one's social position. However, the belief that women are naturally submissive and object-like is false, since women have been made to be like that. Women's object-like status is not a natural fact, but rather a consequence of gender inequality. In structuring our world in such a way as to accommodate this allegedly natural fact about women, we sustain the existing situation of gender inequality. As McKinnon vividly puts it, if we look neutrally on the reality of gender so produced, the harm that has been done will not be perceptible as harm. It becomes just the way things are. Haslinger adds, once we have cast women as submissive and deferential by nature, then efforts to change this role appear unmotivated, even pointless. These reflections suggest that what appeared to be a neutral or objective ideal, namely the procedure of drawing on observed regularities to set the constraints on practical decision-making, is one which will, under certain conditions of gender hierarchy, reinforce the social arrangements on which such a hierarchy depends. Langton agrees with Haslinger that, under conditions of social hierarchy, the norm of assumed objectivity is problematic and therefore should be rejected. Her reasons are twofold. First of all, as Haslinger also noted, because it yields false beliefs, beliefs which do not fit the world at all, like the belief that women are object-like by nature. Secondly, because it yields true but unjustified beliefs, beliefs that are true for the wrong reasons. For example, the belief that women are actually submissive and object-like. The belief is unjustified, according to Langton, because of its direction of fit.